Please, we'll start our meeting this evening. Rise. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this glorious, beautiful day in this community. We thank you for all of our blessings. We ask for your strength and guidance in our deliberations this evening, and we ask that we always do our very best each and every day. And in your Son's name we ask these blessings. Amen. Pledge of allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We have a quorum this evening and announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to bring your attention to the planning update. We had a number of items that are in the process of being reviewed. Some of them are under legal review, and we had anticipated having some ready for the next meeting, but as it turns out, we do not have any ready. So unless something this evening is continued to the next meeting, that meeting can be canceled. I will say, though, that our December meetings are likely to be quite heavy. One other item is that there is a community meeting, and there's a flyer at your places this evening, that's going to be November the 1st from 6:30 till 7:30 at St. Michael the Archangel High School at 6301 Campus Drive. And this is for a rezoning and a special use application for a convenience store with vehicle fueling facility on the northwest corner of Plank Road and Spotswood Furnace Road. This is proposed to be a Sheetz. So that is one community meeting that we have received notice of since your packets went out.
Any other announcements?
That's it.
I trust everybody's had a chance to review the meeting minutes of September 21st, 2016. If there are any comments on that, I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll call the vote. Working? There you go. Thank you. Motion is approved. Unfinished business.
Under unfinished business, we have one item, and that is the authorization for the dam break inundation code amendment.
And at this point, you need the motion.
Yes, motion and vote.
The chair will make a motion based upon the public necessity, convenience, and general welfare, good zoning practices, and compliance with the Virginia Code. I move that the Planning Commission initiate changes to the Spotsylvania County ordinances found in Chapter 23, amending and adding provisions related to dam break inundation zones and overlay districts. I would add that this is to become compliant with Virginia's statute. Is that correct? Yes. If there is no discussion on this, I will take a second for that motion. Second. I will call the vote. Motion is approved. Next item on the agenda is public hearing SUP 16-0007.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if we switched the agenda and went with the SUP application that's next on the agenda first?
For Wilson Realty?
Yes.
Yes.
We could, put that one off just
That is actually how the agenda reads.
Oh, it is? I'm sorry. Okay.
So which one are we doing first?
Hot.
Okay.
Floor computer, please. This is a special use permit request to allow a commercial boarding kennel on 9.24 acres in the rural zoning district. The subject property is located on Brock Road, approximately a half a mile south of the Plank Road and Brock Road intersection. The property is 9.24 acres and includes a house and a detached garage that you'll see right here, with a gravel parking area in front. The detached garage houses the kennel operation. The property is mostly wooded and cleared in the central to the property where the house and the garage kennel are located. Ms. Rosser is the applicant, and she has operated the Highland Oaks Kennel in this location for 11 years. It was only until recently that she understood that she needed a special use permit to conduct this operation, and so she's been going through the process to rectify that situation and bring the property into compliance. You'll see the property is zoned rural and is surrounded by rural zoned property. The proposal is consistent with the goals and objectives identified in the comp plan. The property size and the wooded area that we just saw in the aerial photo limit the potential for visual and noise impact on Brock Road and the surrounding properties. The applicant's current business practice creates minimal impact to the surrounding area, and staff is recommending approval of the request with a few conditions. One being a 100-foot setback for any expansion of the kennel structure or outdoor run areas. This is also to protect should this property be sold in the future and another kennel operation moved here, it would apply as well. Another condition is the maximum number of dogs is limited to 20. The hours of operation limited to 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. This allows a little bit of flexibility for Ms. Rosser with her business operations, but you probably saw in the staff report that her hours of operation are more limited than this. And then a standard condition is the special use conditions would continue despite the underlying zoning. Ms. Rosser did have a community meeting in June. It was very well attended, and there were no concerns raised at the meeting. Deputy Sue Duncan with the Animal Control Division spoke very highly of this operation, and it would seem that she has a lot of support from the community. This is a sketch that was provided to us by Ms. Rosser. You can see the location of her home, which she lives in. She is the only operator and employee of this kennel. The detached garage is the kennel area. It has 12 kennel spaces, glass block walls, wire fencing. This is the parking area for the customers to come in and drop off. And then there is a fenced area for the dog runs that's approximately 3/4 of an acre. All of the dog waste is bagged and disposed of at the county solid waste facilities. Highland Oaks does not provide what you would call doggy daycare, which is short-term boarding. This isn't daily boarding. This is long-term boarding, so consider that as that's further limits the amount of traffic that's coming to and from the site. The applicant stated in her narrative that peak season is typically during the summer months and the holidays, but on a normal basis, she averages between 3 and 5 dogs. During the peak season, it's been upwards of 17 dogs. That concludes my presentation. Ms. Rosser is here with her own presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know Ms. Rosser is as well.
If there are no questions, we will hear from the applicant.
Good evening. Kimberly covered a lot that's in my narrative, which I was going to go over, and I do have a slideshow and a virtual tour of the kennel. We've been in business since March of 2005. We're a very small, kind of a boutique boarding kennel. And first and foremost, I am not going to do any new construction, no increased traffic, absolutely no changes to what I'm doing now. I'm not requesting anything new. We plan on providing the finest canine care that we've been doing for the 11 years plus. We do quality care for a limited amount of dogs, and the average number of dogs staying with us is 3 to 5, and that increases in the summer months. The largest number, as she had stated, was during the summer months, was June through August, and around the holidays, spring breaks, that type of thing. During the summer holidays, we've had a 17 or so. And that usually happens when one client comes with more than one dog. Dogs are housed in the existing structure, which is the garage building. And as she stated, there's different size run. There's 12 spaces in there. I have glass blocks between the dogs so that when they're in there, it's more of a private area for them. The spaces have porcelain tile floors, so nothing's absorbed into the floor, with grout that has a protective thing over the grout. The gates are professional small gauge wire, and each dog has a dog-proof latch where it cannot get out. The dogs are hand walked, so they're only out with us. The total square feet of the housing unit is 25 by 25 feet, and it includes a 3-foot walkway to access each individual area for the dogs. There's an entrance reception area for the kennel, which is 14 by 14. When clients come in to drop off the dogs, they don't even come in the building. I go out and meet them, take the dog and bring them into the building, which that way the dogs bond with me better. When they come back, they'll come into the reception area to pick up the dog. And as Kimberly had stated, there's 3/4 of an acre that I have fenced off. It's a 4-board fence with wire on it, but the dogs are never out there by themselves or hand walked or played with by me outside. There is a training room or playroom area that's a 20 by 25 feet within the building, and there's paint on the floor, so if somebody does have an accident, it's contained. But the dogs go outside to go to the bathroom. All dogs staying in Highland are required to have vaccinations, rabies, distemper parvo, and bordetella vaccinations. There's no exceptions made to that rule. Hours available for drop-off and picking up of the dogs are done as followed, and they are by appointment only. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and again in the evening from 6 to 8. I tried to make these hours during times that were least traveled on the road, and the schools were not in session, so they weren't interfering with school buses in the morning. Saturday, 9 to 11 only, and then Sunday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for pickup. And I used to be closed on Sundays, but I did this as a courtesy because most people had to be at work Monday morning. It was inconvenient for them to come back out Monday and get their dog. We are closed on New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, morning of the day after Christmas, and New Year's Eve. And again, I think this helps, that keeps less traffic off the road during those peak times. Let's see. Our land use, which you know is 9.24 acres, and it's open in the center of the property in mostly wooded areas. There's no sign on the property. I don't want a sign on the property. I don't want anybody coming in and just dropping in because everything's by appointment. I live on the site, and I give 24-hour, 7-day supervision of the dogs. If any reason I have to be out of town, I do have an appropriate person staying. Normally my son comes home if he can, and I have my one neighbor here that lives on the side. She comes and volunteers for me sometimes, and she would step in if I have to be out of town for any reason. She'd stay at the property. The fire and rescue, the closest fire stations to my property are located at 10501 Orange Plank Road, and it's approximately 1.7 miles away. And then the other one's 104 Lakeview Parkway, Locust Grove, which is 3.2 miles. And then the third one is the new one on Plank Road, which is about 6 miles from me. Smoke detectors are installed in the building, which I can hear from my home if they go off. And we have fire extinguishers in every room of the kennel area. The closest school to me is Brock Road Elementary, and it is 3.4 miles away from me. There are no streams, ponds, or lakes on my property, any flowing water of any kind. And I don't know any cemeteries and burial sites on my property, or any special significance on my property other than I love it there. I'm going to do a tour now, and I want to thank you for taking the time this evening. Please enjoy the virtual tour. If you have any questions or concerns, if you'd let me know, I'd like to address those.
That's the reception area? Thank you very much. I'll open up the public hearing at this point. Do we have anybody to speak at this point? You need to do a sign-up sheet. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak to this application? Yeah, okay. I think you've got plenty of support from the Planning Commission on this. If you have any closing remarks, that's fine. I'm going to close the public hearing. I want to compliment you on your presentation.
Thank you.
Make sure you save that for the Board of Supervisors as well.
Yes, sir.
So good job. I don't have any concerns at all with this, and
I don't have any concerns. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But one question.
Yes, ma'am.
What type of flooring do you have in your
It's
kennel?
in the kennel area itself, it's porcelain tile, and it has grout, but it has a protective coating over the grout. So the dogs all go to the bathroom outside, but just in case somebody had an accident, that it cleans up and it doesn't absorb in the floor.
Because I've seen many that just have cement and it cracks.
And the bad thing about cement is it's porous and it absorbs, and most kennels let the dogs go to the bathroom in. That's why these dogs are hand walked several times a day. So it's in between being in your home and being in a kennel, because although they are confined certain hours of the day, they're out several times. And it's more of a personal. The dogs, most of them get out of the car and can't wait to get in the building. They rush to come in. They're like, oh boy, we're here, we're here, we're here. Because they see us more than they see their owners during the day.
I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
if there aren't any other questions or comments, the chair will make a motion to approve this application.
Second.
I'll call the vote.
Thank you.
I suspect it'll be unanimous, and I congratulate you and good luck, okay? Very well. Unanimous. We are on to R16-0006. I would like to state before we start this that I have a conflict of interest due to a professional relationship with Mr. Wilson, so I'm going to recuse myself and hand the meeting over to Ms. Carter to facilitate this application. Ms. Carter?
Okay. I believe before us that we have R16-0006, Wilson Realty, LLC, and I believe, Kimberly, that we will hear from you.
Thank you. This is a request to rezone 0.84 acres from Commercial 1 to Commercial 3 to allow for all permitted uses in the C3 district. The subject property is located at the corner of Tidewater Trail and Shannon Park Drive and was originally part of an 8-acre parcel within the Shannon Industrial Park and zoned Industrial 2. Back in 2007, the owner subdivided and created this parcel and rezoned it to C1 to allow the property to develop as a bank site. A site plan was approved in 2007, and the site was developed in accordance with all county code requirements and design standards. While the applicant is requesting a C3 zoning to allow for all permitted uses in the C3 district, the immediate intent is to use the site for used vehicle sales. Based on the location of the property within the Shannon Industrial Park and the adjacent industrial and commercial zoning and development, the staff is recommending approval of this application and finds it consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use designation of Employment Center. As you know, a GDP was not submitted with this application, given that the site is developed and is up to standards, county standards, but I did pull the layout sheet from the site plan for reference. On here, you'll see the parking identified, the landscaped street buffer along Tidewater Trail, the drive aisles around the property, which include the fire lanes, and access to the site, which is a right-in only from Tidewater Trail and a full access from Shannon Park Drive. The applicant is not proposing any changes to the site at this time. However, depending on the scope and scale of whatever business does locate here, there may be changes needed to the site, whether it be additional parking or some sort of addition. And if that does present itself, then a site plan will be required. It will go through the standard review procedures and approval procedures, and it will have to meet all county code requirements. That concludes staff's presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Would you go back to
Yes,
that
ma'am.
one, please? Okay, so the front of the building, give me the front of the building.
Here's the front.
All right, and you have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parking spaces, am I correct?
It's
6.
It's 9, including the handicap spaces.
Okay, you have 6 parking spaces. Now, when you come in with an automobile sales or whatever, what can they utilize as far as parking, other parking spaces on this property?
If a vehicle sales use goes onto the site, they will have to utilize the site as it's been developed and utilize those parking spaces as they're shown on the site plan. They could not park along these drive aisles, as this would restrict fire access around the property. There's fire lane requirements, so they wouldn't be permitted to do that. They would not be permitted to park up in the landscaped street buffer area where the sidewalk is.
And
the
that's in front of the
And that's
parking?
the front, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So they would really need to use the site as it's been developed, and should their business require additional parking, then they would need to expand and amend the site plan as it's been approved. They would need to amend that to show those changes.
So you're telling me that the when the parking spaces have to be left open for fire, rescue, and whatever, I mean, not
The drive aisles.
the drive.
Yes, ma'am.
The drive aisles have to be left open, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Is this the Union Bank and Trust, the old Union Bank and Trust building?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there supposed to be an automobile dealership going in there? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do we know how many automobiles they plan on putting in there?
We
Have you
don't.
been to the site?
I have been to the site, yes. They have not provided any detailed information on the scope or size of the business yet.
And you're familiar with the Union Bank and Trust building on Lafayette Boulevard?
Yes, sir.
You see where their parking is?
Yes, sir.
They have none.
I believe that is a zoning issue, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That would be a code enforcement issue.
Kimberly, is there a number of vehicles that they can have there on site for sale under the county ordinance? Or can they have as many vehicles as they can put there as long as they keep the fire lanes open?
There's no limit to how many cars they can have on site to sell, but there are parking requirements that are triggered based on how much sales area they have outside in addition to how much sales area they have inside the building as well. So any office space inside the building triggers parking requirements, as well as any vehicle display areas have. And so that triggers customer parking, employee parking, and so that's what could potentially trigger the need to expand.
Do we know how many I've heard 6 and 9. There's 9 parking places, am I correct?
There's 21 spaces total on this approved plan.
That's around.
Yes, sir. There's parking here on the side, on either side and in the front.
Okay, well, with all those parking spaces, do we know how many vehicles they're allowed right now to sell, to put out there for sale?
Well, I don't know I don't know what their plan is on how much inventory they are intending to keep on site. But what I'm saying is realistically, they're going to need more parking, and they're going to need to expand this site. But they could limit an amount of inventory that they have and still meet their parking requirements as is. It really just depends on the scope of their business.
Okay, and no one's here tonight?
No, sir.
Okay.
But I don't believe that they can park more vehicles on that site other than what we have parking spaces for. Is that correct?
That's
And
right.
that's how many?
It's 21 total.
Well, back on the back side where the drive-through, there's some open space back there. Did y'all consider how many parking spaces you can put back there?
We haven't calculated that. Any changes that they need to accommodate their use, they'll have to amend their site plan. And then we will have to review that and approve that based on county code requirements.
Go ahead.
Kimberly, just to recap from what I'm hearing, just to verify. So currently, as the building is built out now with the office space inside of it, this is the minimum requirement of spaces, or this meets the minimum requirement of spaces needed for the office space inside the building currently, correct?
Well, the parking that is shown right now is meeting the requirements for the bank as it was developed as
Correct,
a bank.
with
So
the
when
offices inside. So Travis, you'll know more about this, but there's offices in this bank, correct, already? So this is
So-
accounting for employee parking right now as well as for customer parking
Customers,
requirements.
right, based on the parking requirement for a financial institution. So should this be rezoned and should a vehicle sales want to locate here, they would submit a commercial use permit application. It would be during that time where they would lay out the details of their business, the amount of floor area, the amount of display area, and when they provided those calculations is when we'd be able to calculate how much required parking they would need, which would be for employees and customers. We don't have a limit or a requirement on their, what you would call the vehicle display area.
Okay, thank you.
Are any other questions or comments at this time? Hearing none, the applicant, I don't believe, is here at this to present this case.
No, ma'am. I think
Okay.
there was confusion with a calendar, with this
Okay.
calendar
All
appointment.
right. So at this time, I open the public hearing. And Ms. Parrish, would you give the procedure, please?
Yes, the public hearing is going to be open for the Wilson Realty rezoning case. Anyone that wishes to speak, please stand at the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak unless you represent a group. Please state so at the beginning, and you will have 5 minutes. The timer on the top of the podium will turn yellow when 1 minute remains and turn red when you should wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this case at this time? I open the public hearing. And since no one rises to speak, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Is that right? Okay. Oh, that's right. I don't want to close it. I take that back. Sorry. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board, commission?
I have one question. Do you know how many automobile dealerships we have in Spotsylvania County? If you don't, could you possibly look that up and let us know?
I don't have that answer tonight, but I'll follow up with you tomorrow on that.
Because everywhere I look, there's a church, there's a 7-Eleven, and there's an automobile dealership.
I would like to ask Kimberly that also you stated the compliance that we have on these areas, and I would certainly like for staff and zoning to continue to review these areas to make sure that they're in compliance with the zoning that we have in place. Okay? All right, hearing no other questions, I move to continue the public hearing on the Wilson application for rezoning from C1 to C3 until our meeting on November the 16th to allow the Planning Commission time to review and consider the C3 uses at that location. I made a motion,
A
yes.
second.
Are there any other questions or discussion at this time? Hearing none, let's vote. All right, thank you.
I should probably state for the record that I abstained from that vote instead of voting no. My apologies. Thank you, Ms. Carter. Any other new business?
Just the consideration of that first meeting in November where we have no business at this point in time.
We look forward to longer sessions in December.
Yes.
Any other public comment not related to any of the cases before us this evening? Yes, you can leave. In fact, we're all about to leave here in a second. I probably should have excused you. My apologies, but I'll take a motion to adjourn if there's no other business.
Second.
Now, let's call the vote, please. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much.